When his niece suddenly visits him, a man living in isolation is enchanted by her beauty, leading them to commit a forbidden affair. Unbeknownst to him, she's more than just his niece. At the shore of Sitges, Louise Forrest, a writer, notices a couple who appear to be traveling together. The woman disrobes, revealing golden underwear underneath her clothes. She goes to the water whereas her boyfriend simply watches over her. Back home, Louis begins to write his memoir in which he reminisces about his past. Due to his past affiliation with the Francoist regime, he rewrites the events to absolve his guilt. He lives in seclusion to atone for his dark past, accompanied by his dog and dedicated housekeeper. The said housekeeper alerts him of his sudden visitor. Upon gazing outside the window, Tekla announces that a woman claims he is Louis's niece. It turns out his visitors are the lovers from the beach. Downstairs, the woman reminds Louis that she's Mariana. She introduces her non-verbal lover, Elmir, who takes Louis's photo instead of greeting him. Louis returns her attention to Mariana, commenting on how she resembles her mother, Marie. With her mother mentioned, Mariana asks if Marie has informed him of her visit. Louis denies it, explaining that it's typical of her. The group enters Louis's residence and the man inquires about Mariana's plan to create a write-up of him. According to her, it's for Marie's magazine, and her mother is demanding that she finish it as soon as possible. She adds that Elmir will take his photos. Louis opines that he finds it boring to talk about himself, but Mariana finds it ironic because he's writing his biography. In his defense, he doesn't have contact with people, so writing is his only activity. Later that day, Louis resumes writing his memoir when Mao, his dog, hands him a strange fabric. Louis unravels it and discovers it's underwear. Knowing whom it may belong to, he ascends the stairs to return it to Mariana. However, Louis hears his niece and her lover arguing. A frustrated Mariana leaves and passes by her uncle. Louis follows her into the kitchen, and Mariana confronts him for eavesdropping on them. Calmly, he offers her the garment Mao has stolen. He says that Tekla has forgotten his dinner, so he approaches the refrigerator to find something to eat. As he grabs an egg, Mariana takes it from him, volunteering to prepare his meal. Mariana proudly showcases her egg-cracking skill, deeming that it's similar to the American movies. Louis says that Mariana's father, Jose Maria Tay, shares the same skill as her, upsetting her. Now that they're on the topic, Louis wonders how Jose Maria is doing, and Mariana reveals that her father is currently residing in Marbella. Mariana also informs him that Jose Maria wants to run for mayor. Louis is relieved to hear this, but he's curious about their relationship. Instead of answering, Mariana offers to help him type his memoirs. At first, Louis is skeptical of her capabilities, but Mariana assures him she's skillful. She insists that he take her offer, believing it'll benefit the interview she's tasked with. Louis wonders who'll be interested in a person like him, and Mariana reveals her mother is. Additionally, Louis's estranged wife, Soledad, might be interested since she allowed Mariana to contribute to the magazine. She discloses that his wife is still hopeful that he'll return to her arms. The next day, Elmir retrieves the bullets for his air gun on the wall when he unearths Louis's secret. Elmir scratches the limestone until the soft layer crumbles, revealing the concealed phalangist logo known as yoke and arrows. Because of this, Tekla summons Mariana and warns her that Elmir's actions will enrage her uncle. Mariana rushes downstairs and prevents Elmir from further ruining the wall. He takes a grudge from her warning tone, causing him to leave. Tekla shares that the bullet hole above the logo happened in 1939. Back then, Louis shot a man named Pau after trying to urinate on his wall. Shortly after, in the couple's room, Elmir paints Mariana's golden underwear, and his lover informs him about her discovery regarding the factuality of Louis's memoir. It turns out that he's lying about his age. Moreover, he claims that the bullet on top of the phalangist logo was a result of confrontation. Mariana tells Elmir about Tekla's account of what truly occurred that year and asks him which one he believes. Elmir doesn't provide his insight as he's eager to make love with her. During their intimate moment, Elmir plays his whistle, attracting Louis's attention. The man's curiosity leads him to catch them in the act. Following the awkward scenario, Louis receives a phone call from Marie, and the pair converse about Mariana. At that moment, the woman appears and sits across from Louis. Marie warns him about Elmir, stressing that he has a substance dependence and thoughts of self-harm. Moving on, Marie sadly relays the news of Soledad's passing. Louis asks for her opinion on whether he should attend her funeral, but Marie tells him his late wife was buried already. Furthermore, his estranged children don't want him to know about it, hurting his feelings. Wanting a breather, Louis plans on taking Mao for a walk, so he heads to Mariana's quarters. However, Mao isn't in the room, so Mariana invites him to chat with her instead. Louis is curious about what benefits she can get from a relationship with Elmir. Mariana reveals that Elmir supplies her with forbidden substances. In the middle of their conversation, Mariana mentions that she's read an excerpt from Louis's memoir. The excerpt recounts the time time when Luis repudiated his phalangist mustache because he was starting to lose faith in the ideology. Mariana emphasizes that Luis wrote that he had done it years ago, but she remembers he still had the mustache when she was a kid. Though surprised, Luis excuses that it's of the least importance. Mariana begins to tease him by asking why Luis seems to remember his life events differently. As another excuse, Luis says that he's learning his life as he writes it. With this in mind, Mariana wonders if she appears in his memories, and he confirms. Once again, she teases him by urging him to touch her new conquest's body underneath the sheets. Repulsed, Luis reprimands her for making a fool of him. Mariana apologizes and tries to prevent him from leaving. She explains that she is merely comforting him in his widowerhood. The next day, Mariana and Elmira accompany Luis to the shore to gather his photos for the magazine. Mariana instructs Luis to raise his arm and shout his loyalty to Spain. The man complies, but he soon realizes the awkwardness of it. Returning to his room, Luis listens to his taped voice recording, wherein he recalls his time with Jose Maria. Alongside it, he remembers the first time he met the Montes sisters. In the past, Luis noticed that Marie and Soledad resembled each other strongly. His recording has stopped, so he grabs his microphone to begin another one. This time, Luis recounts the events that happened during their victory, which haunted his conscience. At a cafe, Luis informed Jose Maria that the authorities had detained people, especially in the workforce, who spoke Catalan among themselves. Jose Maria wondered if they were asking for documents. Luis confirmed, but he added that the authorities were also asking for the conversation's topic. Through this, the authorities would detain them if their stories didn't match up. Luis opined that it was the system's most disgusting violation, but Jose Maria criticized him for involving himself in isolated anecdotes. Jose Maria called him naive, offending him. One day in their office, Luis submitted his resignation to the party, for he believed that their association was encouraging unfair treatment among workers. After reading the document, Jose Maria recommended that he should wait until tomorrow and reflect on his decision. He added that Luis must speak to Soledad, his wife, knowing his resignation will disappoint her. Upon reaching his residence, Dr. Godoy informed him that Soledad had fainted at an event. He advised him not to upset her. However, he stressed that Soledad's condition was serious, so consulting a specialist was necessary. Luis ascended the stairs and checked on Soledad's well-being. At present, Luis visits Mariana's room to bring her more pages to type. Mariana invites him to sit down and converse with her. Luis requests that Mariana not publish the photograph of him with his fist raised in the magazine. Coldly, Mariana expresses that she only wants to help him. She proceeds to read an excerpt from Luis's memoir, in which the man describes her father poetically. Luis notices that Mariana addresses Jose Maria with an honorific, so she explains that it corresponds to her father's current appearance. With the topic of appearance, Mariana compliments Luis, emphasizing that he's a beautiful man. Mariana leaves her table and lies on her bed. Out of nowhere, she asks Luis why he didn't marry Marie, knowing they liked each other. Also, she reminds him that Jose Maria was smitten with Soledad. Teasingly, Mariana blames him for making a mess, but Luis is relieved about it. He reasons that Mariana was conceived because of it. Now, Luis thinks about the time confusion that occurred that led to their messy relationship. Sometime in the past, Luis heard some piano chords playing downstairs. The piece that was played was Je Tendre, which Soledad and Marie interpreted. Though his environment was dim, Luis headed to the living room. Then, Luis approached Marie cautiously and proceeded to seduce her. Blinded by desire, Luis made love with her. However, due to the darkness, Luis soon realized that he was actually getting intimate with Soledad. Returning to the present, Mariana finds her uncle's mistake comical, but Luis believes the accident put things into place. He opines that Soledad is a suitable woman for him and owes her everything that he is. Finding his words ridiculous, Mariana comments that he owes Soledad 4 children that he refuses to see. She asks for permission to publish such a story, but Luis sternly refuses. Suddenly, a man emerges from a makeshift canopy, baffling Luis. He questions the man's identity, but Mariana tells him she's forgotten about it. The following day, Mariana visits Luis's room to inquire about some information in his manuscript. Luis validates a part wherein Soledad is sick, making Mariana curious. The man clarifies that his late wife is unaware of it since it's his secret with Dr. Godoy. Before leaving, Mariana asks if the injustices among the working class are true, and Luis confirms. He shares that it happened in November 1941 after he married Soledad. Still curious, Mariana wonders if his resignation letter is also true. Luis reveals that he never wrote the letter, but he knows it by heart. Therefore, he orders Mariana to conceal the truth. Mariana is yet to spare him from the inconsistencies in his manuscript. She suggests that Luis should give more convincing details, especially with Soledad's unidentified disease, to make his memoir more credible. Due to her words, Luis seeks an aged doctor to discuss some possible details he can add to his memoir. He lies to the doctor that he's writing a novel in which the female protagonist is suffering from a disease. Luis requests the doctor to help him decide what disease he can use. Upon hearing this, the doctor recommends he diagnose his character with mitral stenosis because it's the most frequent case of rheumatic process in childhood. Moments later, the doctor's aide invites him to return home. The doctor speaks to Luis and reminds him that his aide is Pau. Luis expresses that he doesn't remember him, so Pau shows him his hand with a bullet scar. Once at home, Luis hears a strange noise coming from Mariana and Elmir's room, thinking they might be getting intimate. He enters his room and finds a tape recorder perched on his bed. Through it, he learns that Mariana won't be sleeping at home tonight. Furious at Elmir for allegedly bringing his conquest to his house, Luis heads to their room to confront him. However, he discovers Elmir is actually a woman and she's making love with a male lover. As a result, Luis evicts the couple. Luis returns to his room to calm down his temper. Afterward, he approaches Elmir and offers her to stay, but she declines. That night, Mariana confronts Luis about evicting Elmir. Her uncle explains that he tried to offer Elmir his place to stay, but she refused. Regardless, Mariana is infuriated by his lousy actions because Elmir might end her life. The next morning, Luis visits Mariana's room to check on her. He finds her meditating bare with cigarette burns on her chest. She reasons that she fell asleep and burned herself. Worried, Luis helps her in tending her wounds. One day, Luis encounters Mariana taking an outdoor bath and observes that she's chipper than usual. Mariana urges him to check the photographs on the table. As he leaves through the photos, he notices that there's an altered version of his controversial pose. He raises this discovery with Mariana, and the woman discloses that Elmir is an artist who created the photo manipulation. Upon hearing her name, Luis is curious about Elmir's whereabouts, so Mariana informs him that she is currently based in Ibiza. Moreover, Elmir has forgiven Luis for throwing her out. After her bath, Mariana goes to the living room and Luis introduces Jose Maria's painting to her. He reveals that the subject is Marie since Jose Maria deems her his blue muse. Mariana believes that it's Soledad, especially since her mother hates the color blue. Furthermore, the painting's main motif is yellow. Mariana initiates recording an interview with Luis. She delves into his extramarital relationships, but the man refuses to answer her incident questions. This time, she asks Luis if Soledad left him because of their stale lovemaking. Offended, Luis orders her to stop recording, causing Mariana to taunt him. The man expresses that he simply wants to evoke his past. Mariana approaches him and starts seducing him. She confesses that she's been fantasizing about him even before. Despite her forwardness, Luis untangles himself from her grasp and returns to his room. He writes another part of his memoir wherein he focuses on his marital issues with Soledad. Back then, he found an unburned crossword in their fireplace, shirt cufflinks in their drawer, and an unusual abundance of bedclothes in their sink. He supposed that Soledad might be unfaithful, so he contacted her. Soledad confirmed her infidelity and admitted she loved the man. However, she clarified that he wasn't the reason she wanted to leave Luis. It's just that Luis started to change and drift away from her. The following morning by the shore, Mariana listens to Luis as he admits that he never left Soledad despite their dying relationship. He can't stand the idea of losing her. By the evening in Luis's backyard, Mariana asks her uncle about what transpired in his house when her parents visited him in the 50s. As a compliance, Luis recounts the events. During their socialization, Jose Maria reprimanded Luis for losing their connections in their business. Marie intervened by telling him that not everyone is as greedy as him. Due to this, Jose Maria threatened to walk out and she challenged him. Now, Luis was left alone with a drunk Marie, and the woman offered to be intimate with him. Luis claimed that nothing happened between them and Marie simply stayed in his house. On the next day, Luis compelled her to return to Barcelona and even accompanied her to the station. Soon after, Luis discovered that Marie had gone to Lorette and stayed in a hotel. Her manager contacted Luis because because Marie was drunk. Once he was at her hotel room, he called Jose Maria and pleaded with him to fetch Marie. Back in the present, Mariana heads to her room and opens her window. She grabs a collection of vinyl records and plays a familiar melody for Luis. Then, she begins her seduction by disrobing in Luis's sight. Later on, Luis enters Mariana's room and succumbs to his niece's advances. The next morning, Luis sees that Mao has carried his box in the garden. He takes it to his room and unboxes it, revealing the man's concealed phalangist uniform and gun. Before he can further scrutinize the items, Mariana alerts him of Marie's arrival. Shortly after, Marie converses with Luis about his memoir. Luis plans to dedicate it to Marie since she has often appeared in it. The woman expresses her worry about the possibility of getting their secret revealed. Therefore, Marie convinces Luis to be discreet about their intimate affair when she was drunk 20 years ago. With Luis's confusion, Marie reveals that Mariana was actually his daughter, whom they conceived through the said affair. Realization dawns on him, knowing that between them, Marie has the greater memory. For this reason, Luis heads to his room and grabs his gun, wanting to end his life. Marie and Mariana hear the gunshot from Luis's room, compelling them to check on him. The pair finds Luis wounded on his hand. Immediately, Mariana performs a first aid to stop the bleeding. Luis informs Mariana that he's her father, but the woman is unconcerned about it.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.